Hello and welcome to another one of our videos. In this video, I'm going to show you how to find out what are the really important news from the economic calendar. I'm going to show you how to prepare for them and where to find them as well. We're going to go through different strategies that you can use before and after such news. So if you want to be prepared and to improve your trading results, make sure to stay until the end of this video. But before that, give us a like, subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to ring the notification bell as well so you don't miss out any of our future content. Alright, now let's begin. So what exactly is the economic calendar? Well, it basically shows us what type of news we've got coming up for a certain economy. Alright, so it shows us the date, which could be today, could be tomorrow, and it could be even next week, right? It shows us the time at which we've got news coming up, the economy at which we're going to be looking at, in this case here, Australia. Then we've got, what type of news we've actually got coming up. And it also shows us some more information, such as what were the previous numbers on this same type of news right here where it says previous. It shows us what is the consensus. So basically, what are the expectations this time, right? And then once the news come out, we get the actual number right here. Okay, before that, this number is not going to be available, but in this case, the news already came out, so we've actually got the actual number as well. Okay, something else very important is that we also have 3 levels of impact. So basically, how much of an impact will that news have on the market? And as you can see, we've got a low impact news, so basically the yellow rectangle. We've got medium impact news, and then we have a high impact news, or basically news that are very likely to bring high volatility in the market, and we could see some bigger moves happening at that time. All right. And with this video, I'm aiming to show you what exactly are those high impact news and why we should be prepared for them. Because there's 2 ways. You can either protect your capital from such news by exiting your positions that you've entered prior to that, or you can also, of course, try and profit from those big moves. Therefore, looking to get involved in a position during the news or just before that. All right. So that's something very important, and for each one of you that wants to become consistently profitable, you should be aware of those types of news. Okay? Right. So it's very important to, know how to read the information that the economic calendar gives us. Right? Because looking at this screenshot right here, well, as you can see, we've got news about pretty much all economies. And if we're looking at the economic calendar and we don't want to be involved in trades around those news, well, that means that we shouldn't be trading at all, right? So, for example, looking at the Aussie dollar news, as you can see, it says that we've got GDP numbers coming out, so gross domestic product for the Aussie. But whatever news comes out, we don't really know if that's good or bad, right? So it basically doesn't help us. Okay, and that's when you look at the numbers here on the right hand side of the screen, and what we see is the previous numbers, what is the consensus, what are the expected numbers, and what are the actual numbers. So in this case it says 1.1%, and like I said, we don't really know if this is positive or negative for the Aussie dollar, right? So we look at the what were the previous numbers, basically what was the percentage last time those news came out, and that was -1%, and we are at 1.1% right now. So that means those are positive news for the Aussie dollar. Okay, but what is more important sometimes is what is the consensus compared to the actual number. And again, in this case, the expected GDP numbers for this time were 0.6%, and we are actually up at 1.1%, meaning that the Aussie dollar did well. All right, but looking at this one down here, which is the quarterly report. As you can see, previous numbers were 3.2% positive, and we are at 1.8% positive, but it looks like it's a green number, so that means we've actually got better numbers. But how is that possible when, as you can see, previous numbers were actually higher? Well, that's because the consensus is 1.5%, all right? And then the actual numbers came out and we are up 0.3% from that consensus. So that's why we've actually got positive news here. So basically, reading the information from the calendar means to compare the actual results with the previous numbers and also with the consensus numbers. Alright, something else very important that you need to know about is that there might be a preliminary market reaction. And what that means is you've probably heard buy the rumor, sell the news, right? And what I mean is that sometimes you will see that with the high impact news, most of the time is, if everyone's expecting a positive news for a certain economy, let's say that news are coming out on Wednesday, you can see that from Monday, market will start going up only based on the expectations that there will be positive news for a certain economy. And then Wednesday comes, the news actually come out, and everyone who's been involved in that move from a lower levels, they will now sell at the top and price will sharply drop and maybe even continue going down. And that's what buy the rumor, sell the news means, right? There will be other times when, a few days prior to the news, you will see a flat market, price will, pretty much be trading in a range, and that means that we don't have preliminary market reaction in this type of price action. But like I said, if you see price, going up for a couple of days before the news come out, you could expect that there will be a sell-off once the news come out, and that way you can protect your capital. All right. So now we know how to use the economic calendar by comparing previous data with actual numbers and so on, but how to exactly prepare for such high impact news so we don't end up in a bad situation on the wrong side of the market? Well, that's exactly what we're going to be talking about right now, and we're going to start off obviously with preparing for the news, which is done when you open the economic calendar and get familiar with what events are coming up for the week ahead. So the calendar that I like to use is the one on fx3.com. But obviously you can use any other economic calendar because they pretty much show us exactly the same information. Alright, it's just I got used to using this one because I've been using it for quite a long time. So I chose to stick with it. Alright, so the first thing when you open up your economic calendar is to make sure that you are looking at the correct time zone. Basically, it has to be your local time zone. So if it's not the one right here, then make sure to change that. Alright, then what I normally do is, because I always have a look at the economic calendar on Monday in the beginning of the week, then I want to look for the news ahead for this week only. All right, so what you then get is a list of all the news that there will be during the current week. And as you can see, there's quite a few of them, right? So it's nothing more but just to confuse us. All right, and what I like to do is to filter out the low impact news and basically news that are not that important and I don't really care about them. All right, so we go to filter, right, and then scroll down, and as you can see, you can choose what type of news you want to see. So basically non-impact news, low impact, medium, or high impact news. And what I like to do is to tick that on none, because that will show me when a certain economy has a national holiday, which means it basically have a day off from the market, which also means there will be lower liquidity and probably not that much moves during that day. So non and high news, that's all I care about, that's all I want to see when I open up my economic calendar. All right, so we apply those filters, and as you can see, we now have a lot less news than what we were previously looking at, right? And what you can also do is to choose which economies you want to be looking at. So as you can see, you've got Turkey, Belgium, Colombia, Germany, and for example, those countries, let's say the news coming out from Germany, yes, they could affect the price of the euro, but throughout my years of experience, I've noticed that they don't really affect the market that much. So what you can do is go to filter and then tick off or tick on basically the news, the countries that you're interested in, and then you won't have to see events about all of them because you don't really need it. All right. So looking at the economic calendar for this week, probably the most important one is the European Central Bank interest rate decision. All right. So we're going to be talking about that as well. But for now, let's just move on to the next one. Right, what we talked about just now was basically preparing for the news by looking at the economic calendar on Sunday before the beginning of the week, or basically on Monday, depending on when you're preparing for market open. All right, and then the next thing you can do is to lower your risk when you are in an active trade and there's news coming regarding the currency pair that you're currently trading. All right, so let's say for example you have a trade from this level right here, and price then goes further up in your favor, and you are now in profit. And let's say that on the same day that there's news that could affect price on this currency pair, and that means if you've had your stop loss for below the most recent low, what you have to do now is to move your stop loss at break even, because in case you have negative news, you could see a sharp move to the downside, which will wipe out all of your profits that you've made so far. All right, so we recommend that you do that, especially when you know that there will be high impact news which could move the price by 100 pips, sometimes maybe even more. All right, this way you don't want to be against the market direction, so that's why you move your stop loss to break even, and that way if you get taken out, at least you won't lose any money. All right, also if you're looking at a potential setup and you get an entry signal, but that entry signal happens to be just before the news that let's say you've got on the same day, then what I recommend is to actually wait for the news to come out, see what moves you've got on the particular currency pair, and then decide if you want to get involved. So remember what we talked about. Let's say you've got news on Wednesday and then you see that from Monday market is basically trading sideways, you've got a flat market, so that means all participants are waiting for that news to come out, and so there's no point for you to make an entry right before that, because most of the time you won't even know in what direction you will see price making an impulse. All right. Another way to lower the risk when you're trading during news is basically to close out all of your active trades. However, for those of you that are swing traders trading on the 4-hourly chart and anything above that, I would say that you don't have to. If you're trading on a lower time frame such as the hourly and any time frame below that, then it's probably a great idea to actually close out all of your trades during high impact news, because if for example you have an entry on the 15-minute chart, you could be taken out literally by just spike in price, a sudden sharp move during a news, and sometimes market could actually skip your stop loss level and continue lower or higher depending on the direction you're trading in. And if it doesn't take you out of your trade, you could then realize a significant loss, a much bigger one than what you've initially planned. All right, so again, if you're a scalper or intraday trader, it is much better to close out all of your trades during high impact news, but if you are swing trading, you don't have to. And the last option to take advantage of the high impact news is to trade during those type of news. Alright, so this is considered an aggressive style of trading, and it's something that we've done before and we've got quite a lot of experience in trading during news. So if you'd like to see more content on that topic, make sure to write down in the comments what exactly do you want to know about trading during the high impact news, and also share with us if you are trading during news at all or you'd rather stay away from the market. Okay, and now let's see which are the news that we have to be aware of. And the first one that we're going to start off is the gross domestic product for a certain country or economy. And pay attention to what we have here. I'm talking about the quarterly GDP numbers, all right? I'm not talking about the one that comes out on monthly basis because it doesn't affect the market that much. Maybe, about 20, 30 pips, but it's not the type of news that will cause those big moves that we need to be aware of. But when it comes to the quarterly numbers, that's what we want to know, all right? And here is all the central banks that we need to know the GDP for, all right? I mean, we have to be aware when those big players will be active, all right? So we've got USA, we've got Bank of England, Royal Bank of Australia, Bank of Canada, and Royal Bank of New Zealand, all right? Also, if you want to know, how much of a move you should expect from such a news, what you can do is to check that up on the economic calendar where you can see the last 12 times, for example, what has happened on the quarterly GDP numbers, all right? And then you start writing down. For example, we had 40 pips of a move on this one. We had 60 pips move on the next one. We had 30 pip move on the next one, and so on and so on. And by looking at the last 12 events, you will gain an idea of, roughly what kind of a move you could expect this time. Okay, so again, gross domestic product on a quarterly basis for those economies only. All right, we're not looking for let's say the European economy because it's not gonna have that much effect on price. All right, so like I said, we've got quite a lot of experience trading the news, and since 2012 we've been following news very actively, so we know what works, what affects the market and what doesn't. And that's why I'm making for you guys this video, so I can share all this knowledge with you. Okay, moving on to unemployment change, and this type of news normally comes out with other news such as the non-farm payrolls, which is for the USA, and it's also called different ways for some other economies, but normally when it comes out we could see quite a lot of volatility because it is again classified as high impact news. Okay, next we have the press conference, and I'm talking about the ones mainly coming from the Fed, European Central Bank, and Bank of England. Okay, during one of those press conferences we could see moves in a certain direction of about 400 500 pips, and that is a massive move, especially for those of you wondering if that's even possible. Trust me, it is. You can go back in history and see what I'm talking about. For example, in 2015, during a Fed press conference, we had a move of over 400 pips on pound dollar. All right, so we should be aware of such events so we don't end up on the wrong side of the market wondering what is happening, right? And also, those important press conferences, the ones that cause big moves in the market, they normally come together with the interest rate decisions. All right, that's another type of news that we're going to have a look at in a second. But if we do get a press conference without interest rate decisions coming out, then that means it's probably not as important as the ones that I'm talking about right now. Okay, so normally the important ones are in a certain days of the week at a certain hour, so you can check that up online as well. But again, we only care about the Fed, the European Central Bank, and Bank of England mainly. All right, and then moving on to interest rate decisions. Like I said, those two come together, but first we get the interest rate decisions, and then there's normally a press conference after that. All right, but before the press conference we could still see some big moves depending on the numbers coming out during the interest rate decisions news. All right, and again, we're looking for interest rate decisions on the dollar, the euro, the British pound, the Australian dollar, the Canadian dollar, and the New Zealand dollar as well. Okay, so sometimes you could see that the interest rate for a certain economy, remains the same, but there's still gonna be some moves in the market. And why is that? Well, that's because of the press conference. Because what they talk about on the press conference is how will the interest rate decision change in future? When is it gonna be? What are the expectations, and so on. So something else that you need to know is that even if we do get a change in the interest rate decision, that will affect the economy of a certain country in future, right? But when you're looking at the chart, there's going to be an immediate reaction on the price of the currency, right? So that's very important. And also, why is the interest rate decision important? Well, that's because all of the other type of news, they will end up affecting the interest rate decision for a country. So for example, if the economy of a certain country is going well, that means there could be a change in the interest rate decision. So all these are related, because depending on the GDP numbers that we get, also the unemployment change and all that will affect the interest rate decision. So that's what we're going to be talking about on the press conference, and that's why we normally get such a big moves. All right, so there's a lot more to talk about on this topic, but I don't want to make this video too long. So if you guys have any questions, please put them in the comments down below, and we are going to do our best to answer each one of you. Also, follow us on social media, join our free Telegram channel. You can find a link in the description down below. And also look out for all those type of news, because when you're aware of what's going on in the market using the economic calendar, you will definitely improve your trading results a lot. Okay, again, if you like this video, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, because we've got a lot more content coming out for you guys. And I wish you all a successful trading. Take care everybody. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to watch our last 2 videos where you can find more valuable information. Check out our channel for more trading related videos. I wish you all a successful trading, and I'll see you next time.